Fatal Frame 5, Maiden of Blackwater, initially began life as 4 entirely different games. One of these, originally envisioned as a Wii U game titled Zero, the Jet Black Bride, saw a character by the name of Hojo Den investigating and then getting wrapped up in something called Yukon, or ghost marriage. Den would be trapped by this Yukon curse and forced to pick one of 5 ghosts that he would end up with in a ghostly marriage, thus killing him. That game as envisioned never eventuated, but it did merge with the other 4 games and end up as the game we know today, Fatal Frame 5. This week, we're going to be looking a little more into this particular aspect and incredibly rich addition to the series' lore. What exactly is Yukon, or ghost marriages, and what role does it play in the game? Yukon in Japanese uses the kanji for yu, as in yurei, or spirit, and kon, as in marriage. Literally, ghost marriage or spirit marriage. It's just how it sounds. A living person gets married to a spirit. But why is this done? How did it come about? What does it hope to achieve? Mount Hikami, the main location Fatal Frame 5 takes place in, is perhaps the richest location in the series so far in terms of the amount of rituals and bits of folklore going on there. It's here that these ghost marriages take place, and their main purpose is to soothe the shrine maidens who, having fulfilled their duties in life, are now suffering inside the caskets atop Mount Hikami in an effort to keep the black waters at bay. These shrine maidens served a very special purpose. By bathing in the waters of Mount Hikami, they found themselves closer to death than regular people, which gave them the ability to see people's inner thoughts and memories. When people were ready to end their life, or feared that the end was near either way, they would visit Mount Hikami and choose a shrine maiden to accompany them on their final journey. This maiden would remove her veil and glimpse the inner secrets and memories of this person as they died, taking them all inside herself. It was said that strong maidens could merely glance at people from a distance, while weaker maidens would have to touch the person to see their memories. Over time, a maiden would take on such an emotional burden from all these secret memories that she too would be unable to continue living any longer. Once this happened, she would travel to the shrine on the water, where she would be placed in a casket, and then sunk somewhere on Mount Hikami to act as a pillar. Her strong spiritual powers would help purify the mountain and keep the black water at bay. Depending on how spiritually strong they were in life, these maidens in their caskets were sunk in different areas of the mountain, and even ranged in size. The strongest maidens were buried in larger caskets towards the top of the mountain, and in some cases, in the very shadow spring itself. But these maidens, who would be able to survive their suspended state between life and death much longer than the others, were buried in larger caskets so they could fit another person in there with them. A future husband, who would enter into Yukon, or ghost marriage, to help soothe them and ensure they hold out for even longer, before eventually melting into the black water. The game gives us a hint as to how this practice may have come about in a neat little scary story that's supposed to give you some background on the Yomiko, or Shadowborn, as well. These children are the rare products of a Yukon, where the mother is still alive but the father is a ghost. Once, a man beloved by a girl living in a small village went missing in the mountains. Every day, the girl went to the mountain shrine to pray for his return, but years went by, and the man never came back. After 10 years, the girl had lost her mind. She went on living and talking to a man who wasn't there. One day, the villagers noticed that she was with child. She said that the man who had gone missing was the father. Ignoring the talk in the village about the identity of the father, she gave birth alone. The baby girl that was born had the missing man's eyes. As for the man, he was an outsider who had stumbled upon the village. It later transpired he was killed by the villagers 10 years prior. When the child learnt how to speak, she asked the villagers, "Why did you kill my father?" This story is the game giving you a hint as to how Hinasaki Miyu came about, but it also lets us know that Yukon wasn't just practiced by the shrine maidens on Mount Hikami, although they were definitely the main practitioners. It was occasionally practiced by others too, and it could go both ways. With the shrine maidens, all of their husbands were living men, but as we see with Hinasaki Miku, who was very much alive but on her way out, she carried out Yukon with her dead brother, Mafuyu, and visited Mount Hikami specifically for it. These ghost marriages were carried out in the House of Joining. The House of Joining itself is said to exist between worlds, and only suitable grooms would be able to find it. Once entering the building, these future grooms would choose their wife from the pictures there and then be led to the Chamber of Vows, where their ghostly wife would await. The groom would have to enter the chamber alone, and once the ceremony was complete, join his new wife inside her casket for all eternity, his presence allowing her to hold out just a little longer. There was only one man to ever leave the House of Joining alive, and that was, of course, Dr. Aso, who visited the site with special permission to take a photograph of Kurosawa Ose in preparation for her future ghost marriage. Normally the pictures shown to the grooms-to-be were paintings, but Ose was destined to be a great pillar, and thus they felt it more fitting to take a rare and special photograph of her. This photograph was used to lure numerous men to their deaths in ghost marriages with Ose, who was corrupted by the slaughter of the other shrine maidens on the mountain at the same time she was being placed into her casket. Through her natural good looks and powerful ghostly charms, men fell in love at first sight with her photograph, and, in a daze, found themselves drawn to the House of Joining, to join her in death. One of these men was Sakaki Kazuya, Ren's friend from university who occasionally worked on research with him. It was through this research that he stumbled upon the lost residence of folklorist Watarai Keiji, and, inside it, that photograph of Ose. Falling head over heels for the woman in the photo, he found himself at the House of Joining before he even knew what was going on, but once there, seemed to return to his senses, perhaps thanks to Ose's terrifying visage. She rejected him due to his terror at seeing her, and his broken body was placed inside a casket and left on the mountain. Of course, Watarai himself was another victim of Ose's. He visited Mount Hikami after hearing of Dr. Asol's work, and stumbled upon that same photograph while exploring the mountain. He also fell immediately in love with her, and found his way to the House of Joining. He was also terrified by Ose's ghostly visage and thus rejected, killed, and placed in a casket as well. The soulless bodies of grooms joined in ghost marriage were then placed in the Forbidden Valley, which you must pass through on your way to the House of Joining, while the souls of men driven mad by their ghost marriages were enshrined in unmarked graves in the same place. Their bodies, however, were placed in caskets and sunk in the Womb Cavern, a series of caves and tunnels beneath the mountain. The wedding celebrant sums all of this up in one of her diaries. The ghost marriage allows pillars to persist longer. Maidens who become pillars must be bound to someone. Sad though it may be, no maiden can endure the pain they suffer within the reliquary on her own. We brought many men to wed Ose, but they all had a change of heart. The joinings failed. I feel she might be waiting for Master Aso to come back for her. But even if he does come, there is no guarantee that she will be the one he chooses. They may have made a promise, but we know that outsiders have fickle hearts. In general, most ghost marriages before the disaster on Mount Hikami ended well enough. Both participants were willing, and things went according to plan. Afterwards, however, was a different story, and every single man who fell for Ose's picture, and then saw her corrupted form for real, then tried to escape and inevitably died. The Mount Hikami inhabitants even seemed to expect this from them, because they were outsiders. It seemed only these outsiders failed, after all. But, as the saying goes, correlation does not imply causation. These failed ghost marriages all happened after Ulse was corrupted, and the men being outsiders likely had very little to do with that. Another file in the game gives another interesting anecdote of yet another Yukon. Called the Photobride, it states, "A local fool suddenly declared that he had married. The village threw a celebration, but no one had seen the bride. Someone went to the man's house and could hear the sounds of a woman talking within. However, looking inside, he saw only the man from behind, with no sign of a woman. Days pass, and the man hasn't left his house, so one of the villagers went to check on him. There was no one in the house, only an old photograph left behind. In the photo was a bride hiding her face, and the missing man was at her side. The man who saw the photo said that the bride appeared to be smiling." It's unknown who wrote this file, or when, but it's further proof that Yukon has long been a practice in the Mount Hikami area. Whether this ghostly woman was a shrine maiden or not is also left unclear. Now, with all of this information behind us, Miku's role in the game hopefully makes a little more sense. When Miu, her child born of a ghostly union with her dead brother's spirit at the end of Fatal Frame 3, is 3 years old, Miku learns of the ghost marriage custom on Mount Hikami. Miku was only 23 at the time, and giving birth to a shadowborn greatly reduced her own life spirit. Realizing that her own life is about to end, and having learnt of this ritual that can help soothe spirits, she resolves to take part and help lift some of her brother's suffering. After all, his spirit is still helping keep the Himuro Mansion's Hellgate closed, alongside Kirie. Miku herself states in one of her notes, "He doesn't need to understand me. I don't need to be with him forever. If I can just ease my brother's suffering for a moment as he keeps the gates of the underworld sealed. In the end, who will be by my side? Let me do this, please. Forgive me." With this particular ghost marriage, we've so far avoided tackling the elephant in the room head on, so let's address it now. Yes, Mafuyu and Miku are full-blooded siblings, and yes, she apparently did the deed with his spirit while she was in a coma at the end of Fatal Frame 3. However, the original intention, way back at the start of development, was for Miu to be Miku and Amakura Kei's daughter instead. That other guy from Fatal Frame 3. Being the daughter of the two great families of the series, you would naturally expect her to be a powerful character. However, as the game developed and the ghost marriage aspect took on far more weight, the creators realized that Kei being Miu's father didn't work quite so well. Shibata, the series creator, stated he realized that, in terms of the story and emotional weight, the only person Miku could legitimately participate in ghost marriage with was Mafuyu, who was doing something similar by staying behind with Kirie in the Himuro Mansion. The parallels were too strong to ignore, and Miku spent both her previous outings in the series both looking for her brother, and then constantly mourning his loss. Shibata admitted that he felt sorry to anyone who didn't like this particular direction her story went, but to him, it was the only one that made sense for the character and the story being told. He also claimed that Miku chose to marry her brother's spirit because she thought it might actually free him from his duty watching over the Hellgate, although that wasn't necessarily what happened. But that is the story behind Yukon, or ghost marriages, as presented in Fatal Frame 5. What did you guys think of this one? Are there any other lore videos you'd like to see? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you again next time.